Hello, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours for TradersPost on this June 21st, 2024 year of our Lord. I am Tom Hartman, part of the marketing team here at TradersPost, and being joined this week with Jonathan, uh, might be Satoshi Wage, CEO of TradersPost. How's it going, John?
What's up, Tom? How you doing, man? It's good to be here.
Yeah, I wish I could be happy, but as a long crypto holder, when it goes down, my mood goes down. Don't worry, I won't take it out on you guys. I will take it out on my family instead.
And we had
Uh,
what was like a quadruple top on Bitcoin.
That's right. Well, with the dollar, the U.S. dollar, I wish I paid attention to that a little bit more. Just too busy with work. But the dollar was clearly signaling bullishness, and I just didn't pay attention. In fact, the dollar might like skyrocket over the next skyrocket in the way that the dollar does over the next 3 months. But we'll see. I don't think so. I'm not liquidated yet, so I'm gonna keep holding out hope until that happens. As always, office hours, we are here every week in order to help you learn TradersPost better. We want TradersPost to be the best automated trading platform for you and your automated trading needs. And in order to do that, we need you. We need your feedback and we need your questions. So we have a great crop of questions this week, and we're going to take advantage of having the developer here, the big man in charge, in order to ask some of the questions that have been, might be at the back of my mind to to hit on while he's live and he has to provide the answers. Um, so we're going to start off here with a general question. You are always inside of the Discord group, and of course in the support tickets as well, answering questions from the community of how to do certain things, how to troubleshoot and stuff like that. And I wanted to know if there's like sort of like guidance you can give for a way people should think about troubleshooting problems with their strategies. So let me just set the table. They have an issue. The trade doesn't execute in the way that they think. So they think to themselves, okay, there's a problem. They get some idea of what the problem is, and then immediately they'll post. Some people will just post a question of how do I solve this issue. Is there sort of like a rule of thumb or a way of thinking that you think would help solve like 50% of cases if people just leave these steps?
I mean, troubleshooting is a skill, and some people are really good at it, and some people aren't. But I think you can learn how to troubleshoot, and even like in the physical world. If you've ever done like electrical work or troubleshooting physical things in a computer with electricity, you have to trace from the very beginning all the way through the system to what you expect to be the end result. So in our case, we're using TradingView, and TradingView signals an alert. So the first place you would look is, well, did TradingView signal an alert? Do I see it on the chart? If you see something on the chart that says there was a signal, then go check to see if there was an actual alert that was triggered. So that's your second step. And the reason why you want to do that is because like you could have repainting. So like you could see a signal on the chart, but it didn't actually send the alert. Or the reverse could be true, where you see the alert was sent, but there's no order on the chart. So it can repaint both directions. So that would be the next step. After you see that there was an alert triggered in TradingView, then you would go over to TradersPost and look at the logs for your webhook. And if you see that the webhook was received by TradersPost, then you can see, well, what happened after that. It should have triggered a trade. If there was a problem with the JSON that was sent over in the webhook, then in the webhook logs, you would see like what the JSON looked like and the error and what you need to fix on the TradingView side by going in and editing your alert and editing the alert message to fix the JSON. And then if everything was good with the JSON, it should execute a trade, and you'll see a list of all the trades that were executed. And then if you just click that trade, you'll see the status of it. And if you sent a trade to the broker and the broker responded with a rejection message, you would see that on the trade screen. So really, it's just kind of not having I think I would say like the one thing is just not having a fear of looking. I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, is like something will be wrong and you kind of just like look at it from the outside and you don't ever kind of look under the covers, and you got to like turn over every rock. Even if you like, I've always said like the first rule of troubleshooting is rule out all the things that you think it's not. Because a lot of times, like a funny story, actually, I used to do customer support 20 plus years ago, and I'd have customers call in about their printer, and the first things I would ask is, well, is it plugged in? Is the power on? And you wouldn't believe it, the amount of times that people would be like, oh, it's not that.
That's right.
Not an idiot. And then it turns out that it's actually not plugged in. So like, make sure your alert is active. Like, make sure the JSON is correct in your alert message. Like, rule out all the obvious things first.
My favorite is always when you ask those sorts of things. It was that problem, but they don't want to admit it, and so they let the call go on a little bit further, and they go, "Oh, it's working all of a sudden."
Yeah.
Oh, really? It's just working all of a sudden? Yeah.
They'll get offended that you ask that, and then it's a skill. That's a skill as well, as like trying to delicately make a suggestion that maybe it's this, or making them think that they found the problem is another way to do that.
Well, there's two things that I think are, and you'll let me know if I'm wrong, if you have a different sense, that underlies when people are asking. Obviously, the group of people who ask questions are the people who, we're not seeing the people who already solved it. So, let's put that aside. But there's a mentality that I see where people sort of think that TradersPost, or I guess any platform, but TradersPost is like a Rube Goldberg machine where any number of things can be all broken and wrong, and it's sort of like almost like it implies that it's luck that a signal actually gets through. And so if there's any problem, we'll just ask the person, because there's probably a domino that broke, as if it would just break for them and not break for anything else, or that it's like always moving. And I sort of want to, in the way that the question is implied, it's sort of like, well, no, the assumption should be, at the very least, that the system is working the way it needs to be, and the problem is like a user issue or understanding of the settings, not that there's a fundamental defect within the thing and you just happen to find that bug. That's where you're starting from.
It's possible, right? Like it's possible that you could have been the one person to kind of encounter one of those edge cases, or a bug that we introduced, or a bug that's existed for years and no one else has encountered it, but the likelihood is pretty low. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to start with the assumption that like you're missing something. And I know that's not the very helpful, because you're still trying to find like the needle in the haystack, and systems like TradersPost and trading in general are complicated, and like the permutations of the ways signals can be sent is kind of like infinite. So you just got to make sure all your settings are correct, kind of trace the signal through from origin to the end and follow it through, and like, I like the analogy of like troubleshooting electrical signals. Like if you have a light on a car and a battery at the front in the engine bay, like, and the light isn't working, like, well, somewhere in between the battery and the light, that signal is getting lost. And you have to go step by step from the battery, or you'd probably start at the light first and rule out, is the light broken? Is the light just out? You can test that separately from the wire and the battery with a meter. But if the light works, then you know that I got to trace it back even further and find out, is the wire broken? Anyways, that's a little bit of a long-winded example, but I like to think of it that way, because part of the issue I think with these systems is like they're not physical, and you can't like, it's hard for people to like visualize in their head that like literally there's physical connections between TradingView and TradersPost, even though it's happening, in milliseconds. It's still a physical connection, and you have to trace that all the way through and use all the logs and the tools that exist in TradersPost and on TradingView. And then I guess the last thing that I would say, like in the rare scenario where you see an alert in the alert log in TradingView and no webhook was received by TradersPost, we don't have any insight onto the TradingView side, but you would have to just leave that alert open with the alert log there, and open up a ticket with TradingView and have them investigate what happened when they tried to send that webhook. And there's never been a scenario where that has happened, but in theory, it could happen. So that's how you would troubleshoot that.
Excellent. Perfect. All right, so let's move on to one of the questions that we got this week. Someone was asking, how do I move my stop loss to a break-even price if I've entered a trade with a bracket order?
Yeah, that's a good question. There really isn't a great way to do that today. I think there's two things. I do want to enhance TradersPost to add the ability to send, or actually rather send a signal to like replace an order or to update an order. You could sort of mimic it today by just sending another sell signal with a new limit price.
Right.
And the only problem is that if you had two legs on that bracket order, a stop loss and a take profit, we have to cancel those orders first before we can place the new stop loss. So today, I think it would actually cancel the take profit and the stop loss, and then submit the new limit order with the new price. So that would allow you to move up your stop loss, but then you would have, no take profit.
If you sent a sell signal, it would cancel out. It wouldn't just trigger the sell signal. It would ignore that because there's already a stop loss associated with the order.
Well, we have to cancel it because, like, if you have, say you're in a position of Apple with 5 shares and you have a stop loss to sell 5 shares, well, you can't create another sell order for 5 shares because that other sell order is already has that quantity locked. So the broker will reject that order saying like, there isn't 5 shares of X of Apple to sell because there's already an order waiting to sell that. So yeah, we cancel those orders, and we do that on purpose because, like, imagine you use the bracket order functionality with a strategy in your broker, but you're still using the exit signal of your strategy. Well, when that exit signal comes in real time from TradingView, and then we try to submit that exit order, if we don't cancel the take profit and stop loss order first, your strategy's exit signal will get rejected by the broker. So we send the cancels for any open orders. We wait for those orders to be fully canceled in the broker, and then we send the exit order to the broker from your strategy.
So that seems to drive with how I've been thinking about it, whereas only send the bracket order if I know that my exits are fixed. And if there's any dynamicness to it at all, let that be handled by the
Pretty much. Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. Like, generally, like, you could do both. And some people do that where they like leave the take profit and stop loss order in the broker, just sort of as like this is my, my, oh shit, I need to get out my ripcord. I just need to get out.
Right.
So like I'll put that stop loss somewhere lower underneath, but then they still have their strategy exiting dynamically based off of whatever criteria they program. But the potential problem with that is if the bracket order in the broker gets filled or is getting filled at the exact same time that your strategy sends an exit signal, you could get in the scenario where you have a race condition, and TradersPost is trying to TradersPost is trying to execute this exit order at the same time the broker just executed the other exit order. And you could get in a scenario where the broker exits the long position, our trade, and TradersPost tries to execute at the same time. It sees that there's still a long position open, and it tries to exit it. But by the time we, TradersPost, send the other sell order, the position is no longer open, and it results in a sell short.
Classic description from a programmer. It's great. It's always like this, thinking about how the computer thinks in order to be like what's going on.
And it's not a problem for all brokers. Like, some brokers have specific instructions. Like when it's a sell to exit a long position, it's an action of sell. So if that were to happen with that broker, then it would just reject the order because the broker's gonna be like, sell what? I don't have a position open. But if it has specific instructions for sell short versus, buy to close, sell to close, some brokers it's just buy or sell. and there's no differentiation between the type of sell.
Understood. Okay. Well, that's just the reality of any type of automated system. You're going to have to deal with some of these quirks. It seems to me that the problem is easily solved by creating a new charting software and developing your own broker. But I think that's maybe down the line on the roadmap.
Yeah.
All right. Next up here, someone was asking, is there a way to manually send a trade signal to TradersPost without having to set up an alert in TradingView?
Yes,
and there
definitely.
is.
Yeah, there is. And it's funny, a lot of stuff that's in TradersPost was born out of a need to make development easier. So if you go to your webhooks and there's a send request button, that will allow you to basically manually send a signal to that webhook. And this was something that I built for myself, originally, because I needed to be able to send signals manually really easily. And I was doing it originally via like some scripts that I would run manually from my computer.
Right.
But then I started to need to do more advanced stuff. So I built it right into TradersPost so that other customers can do that, where they can manually send signals. But then we also have customers that are actually using it like if they have a strategy running and they have, like, say they want to exit a position early before their strategy actually sends the exit signal, they'll go in and send the exit signal on the webhook manually. They could go to the broker and just exit the position manually, but by executing it as a trade, it gets logged correctly, and like you have both the entry and the exit as a trade. And if you say you had multiple brokers connected to one strategy, by sending the signal to the webhook, it'll execute the same trade in all of the brokers. So you don't have to do it manually across each broker that has that open position.
I would love to see the page sort of like expanded where I could just paste the JSON code as opposed to breaking it up into different fields.
I thought about that. Yeah, that's interesting that you would want that. I guess it depends on who you are.
Well, one, it's like the format of what I have in TradingView anyway. So, and I would often be copying and pasting the JSON payload. But
Right.
also, let's say I'm testing something out, and I have a order that was executed or what have you within the strategy. I can just go into the webhook log, grab the signal that was sent, and then repaste that in to see what that would have done.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
obviously,
idea.
it opens up all kinds of things of like, it could error check and be like, hey, no, you actually have a formatting error, or you might want to do this. Don't have this parameter at the same time as that,
Right.
which we can't do in TradingView.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. And I thought about, as you're filling out the form, this was actually something that Mike suggested. As you're filling out the form, have like a box to the right of the form with the JSON
That's right.
auto generating. So I would imagine people might use that to like fill out the form and see what JSON gets generated to like sort of understand the syntax of what's required for the different types of orders. And then they can fill out the form and then copy the JSON and then paste it into the TradingView alert.
That's right. Excellent.
That's a good idea.
All right. Next up here, we have, let's see here. When trading options, why would a sell signal buy a put instead of selling it?
Yeah. So this is there's a little bit of a legacy reason here, since TradersPost was built on top of TradingView originally, and TradingView is stocks only. The action in a strategy for the underlying is always buy or sell. So if you're running a strategy and like it's a directional trade where you're running your strategy on the underlying, but you're buying calls or selling puts, or buying calls and buying long puts, when the strategy sends an action of sell on the underlying, that means the underlying stock price is going down, which would mean on a sell signal you would want to buy a put. And we do that because there would be no way to do it otherwise. But I think what we'll do in the future is we'll make that that reversion logic something that you have to opt into. So right now it's like on by default, but I think we might change the default so it's off by default. And if you want an action of sell to buy long put, you would have to like turn that on. I think that will make more sense, and cause less confusion. I'm sure it's, if like for the people who aren't using TradingView, it causes some confusion for sure.
Right. Actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. This is a question that came in this week where someone was asking, when trying to add Robinhood as a broker, I get an authentication code page, even with two-factor authentication disabled on Robinhood. How do I get around this?
So you actually can't. Robinhood requires 2FA now, but if you never had it enabled, you can basically like keep using Robinhood without it. But as soon as you enable it, you can't turn it off. And all new Robinhood accounts have to have 2FA enabled. And the Robinhood integration on the TradersPost side won't work with accounts that don't have 2FA enabled. So basically, you have to enable 2FA on your Robinhood account in order to use it with TradersPost. And even if we had the ability to make it work without 2FA, we wouldn't. You need to enable 2FA on your account. Like that's just like a table stakes. Like you need to have 2FA on every financial bank brokerage account you own, just for like it's just, you should do it.
All right, perfect. And finally, this is a question I want to know. If you could snap your fingers and add one feature to TradersPost, what would you add?
I don't know, people would probably expect me to answer some like crazy AI feature
There we go.
that prints money and just, makes everyone billionaires. But I'm kind of a boring person. And the next major thing on our roadmap that we want to work on is analytics and reports. I think that's kind of like the number one requested thing in TradersPost is people want to analyze the results of their strategy and the portfolio analytics directly in TradersPost. I want to add the ability to export data out of TradersPost into CSV files so that people can then import that data into other systems. But really, it's just full portfolio analytics and strategy level analytics and individual trade analytics. So you can kind of see what the P&L for that trade was, see what the P&L and stats are for a strategy, and then the P&L and stats for an actual account. And then all of the data rolled up at the TradersPost level. So you can see across all your brokerage accounts and all of your strategies, you can kind of see all of those stats at a bird's eye view. I think that's the most practical and useful thing for all of our customers.
What do you think about when a company publishes their roadmap and then also uses something like Canny.io to crowdsource the features that people would want to use? Do you prefer to have like a directed approach where what the vision you have for it, or would you rather be developed by the community?
Well, I mean, we're sort of already developed by the community. It's just not public, I guess. Like it's not publicly displayed. I think we're definitely driven by feedback that we get from customers. It's very rare, or if ever, that anyone is adding any feature or anything that's not directly coming back from either like a bug report from a customer or a feature idea. A lot of the times if things are driven by, like, customers may not ask for things directly, but just by them reporting something of like them getting stuck on something, maybe it's not like a bug or like a missing feature, but like maybe something isn't intuitive enough. And it causes support tickets. And, we want to run a company that has high margins. So like we want to make the software as intuitive and self-serve as possible so that people don't get stuck. Like I was like to use an analogy, like you want the tracks of the software to be like greased so that when they step on the tracks, they just like accidentally fall the direction that they need to go. But I've thought about introducing one of those tools to like have a public roadmap. And I've asked other people about that, and I kind of got mixed like feedback. Some people told me don't do it, because it's tough setting expectations, and like as soon as you start to tell people like we might do this, and I don't know if this is a bad thing, but like they're just gonna be constantly like when is X, when is it gonna happen, when is it gonna happen, when is it gonna happen, and then
2 years, I can't believe this hasn't been implemented.
and easy. It's impossible to set expectations, and like the list of things that we could do is very long and endless, and it's like it's way longer than things that we're actually going to do. And prioritizing that list is hard, but in some ways a tool like that might make prioritizing easier. But I don't know, there might be the signal to noise ratio might be off, and it might not be worth it. I don't know, I'm open to it. What do you?
Oh, I prefer when something is small and young, you want a dictatorship, and you put in democracy very slowly, very slowly over time, because you have the vision for it, and this would not have been created but for your desire. You're essentially the initial test case, and I think until you're like, I can't really think of really anything else that would satisfy me. Like that's where you want to get into the community.
I think I agree with you. So my background before TradersPost and for the last 20 years, I have a pretty popular open source project, and running an open source project is very different than running a business. But it's ran publicly, like everyone sees everything. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. Like when you don't have that dictatorship, you don't have that one vision, like open source projects can kind of just be all over the place. So like a lot of really great open source projects are ran with like a benevolent dictator where they're the ones who have the final say. They control everything, but they intently listen from their users, and they gather all that feedback, and they sort of like get rid of all the noise, filter out all the non-important stuff, and distill it down to the really important things, and like hyper focus on those things. So at some point with a really, really big company, it kind of becomes impossible for one person to like do that because it's just too complicated and there are too many moving pieces and there's too much data. I think that's kind of what you were saying. Like in the early days, you need the dictatorship, but eventually, like that's not even an eventually, like you said, it's a slow adoption where like you replace manual, like judgment, gut-based decision-making processes with like data-driven, quantitative, objective, data-driven processes. But you don't want to do that too early, and you don't want to do it too late. And you don't want to try to be quantitative and objective before you have data, and you kind of just need to have someone with a really like that gut opinion, and that's kind of like the ultimate driver of the product.
Exactly. Well, I'll just end with saying this: that you brought up the idea that as far as features are concerned, the idea of intuitiveness versus functionality of the platform. And I know my initial reaction to TradersPost, I mean, you'll remember how it looked even before, even just like last year. I always thought to myself, well, this could be, slicker in the way that it's moving around. But then I have quickly come to realize that for this particular industry where you're dealing with people's money and an expectation of reliable execution, that I'm very happy now that your slant isn't towards make something look as slick as possible. Your slant is to make sure that it functions the way it's supposed to function every single time. And so people are, and we see this within the support groups, people are rewarded for diving into the product and understanding all the different features, all the different permutations, and it's like a that's the skill you want, as opposed to, well, this slid from left to right really nicely, but I don't always know that it's going to work the way it needs to.
Yeah. Well,
No one's scrambling in the background on Thursday, be like, oh, it doesn't work because I forgot to press the button. I'm supposed to press the button. I'm sure you've worked in companies like that before, where it's a bunch of rats and mazes in the back, making sure that everything looks good on the front end.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to run itself. Errors should kind of correct themselves. Like I don't want to be the person with my finger in the dam, just constantly like moving my finger to whichever hole, whatever fire of the day is. So yeah, I mean, I think it's important to think of things that way. And because TradersPost isn't a funded company, like we don't have VC backers, we have to really think about like what's important to work on, and debating endlessly over like what color the wall is, or like what colors the button are, or the width of the borders on the buttons. These are things that get debated about endlessly in big companies because they have the luxury of like being able to go that deep into like a very narrow vertical. Mm-hmm. But like TradersPost isn't that. So like we choose to work on the things that are like going to give us the most bang for our buck. And like maybe there's another 5% that can be squeezed out and optimized, but that last 5% could take 1,000% more time than the 95% took. So that's really what I focus on, and that's kind of like the lens that I look at everything through. But I hope that as TradersPost grows and we get more money and more customers and more employees, we'll have the luxury of being able to kind of like go through some of those polishing things and make it look as sexy as possible. But like we're definitely not quite in that phase yet. I hope to be one day.
Well, one thing's for sure, for my part, I won't ask you if you love working on TradersPost, if this is such a great project to you that you wake up and you're eager to work on it, because there's only one answer I want from that anyway, and I'm not going to force you to lie if it's not the case. But I think clearly you do enjoy working with on this project. It's a labor of love. So we'll leave it there for this week. Just a reminder to everybody, the questions that we ask come from you. They come from support tickets. They come from your messages on Discord, on YouTube videos, anything like that. We're always looking for ways in order to make sure that TradersPost becomes the best automated trading platform for you and your trading needs. And we need your feedback for that, and we appreciate it. So we'll leave you with that and wish you a great weekend, and to you as well, John.
Thanks, Tom. Talk to you later.